Good evening, everyone. So this video is going to be reviewing for your the sophomore test. Now, before I get started, I want to point out something. So the way I had to do this by setting it up on Google Classroom is that I wasn't able, or in setting this up on Google Classroom, I wasn't able to include a word bank. So what I want you to do is to write down on a piece of paper all the words that are going to be used in the first section. And please don't write anything else down, just the words. We're gonna have to do this based on honor code, and I hope you're all up for the challenge. So please don't cheat. Okay, secondly, when you finish the test, it's going to show you your grade, but I wouldn't pay much attention to it, because if you misspell a word, like in the matching section, or if you misspell a word in like the really short answer part, and actually with the longer answers as well, it's not going to count it as right. So it takes off points. So I'm going to go through and grade them all manually. So the only thing I would pay attention to is your grade on the true false part, because that's going to be legit. But yeah, your overall grade, I wouldn't pay much attention to what it tells you you got. I think it told me I got like a 38 out of 51 because I didn't even misspell anything. It just counted every single one of my short answers wrong, because I guess I worded it slightly differently than I did when making the test. So I just don't pay much attention to it. Okay, so the words you need to write down on a piece of paper, and then you're going to have this this little piece of paper in front of you, are the following words: apostasy, apostle, deposit of faith, diocese, ecumenical, ecumenism, heresy, immutable, indefectible, indulgence, perennial, Protestantism, Reformation, schism, separated brethren, Theotokos, and unicity. Okay, so those are all the words that are going to be in the matching section. So once again, you're going to need to write down on a piece of paper just these, I think, what are there, 17? I think there's 17 words. Yeah, 17. And only have those words on there. Please do not put the definition down. I mean, you're more than welcome to write it down elsewhere, but obviously don't have that in front of you when you're taking the test. Oh, also, you don't have to take it you don't have to take it like during a certain time frame. I may have already mentioned this to you, I can't remember. So it's gonna be posted at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, and you're going to have until, I don't know, sometime later that night to do it. It doesn't really matter to me what time of the day you finish it in. Okay, so let's get going. So we're going to start with the short answer questions like we usually do. So one short answer question is you got to know the 4 marks of the church. So that's very simple. Just name the 4 marks of the church. The next, and that's 1 Holy Catholic and Apostolic. And I know that there was a question in your homework assignment. There was actually a typo in the question, and I think it was misleadingly put anyway. But it asked for 4 marks of the church. But what it was talking about, it should have said 3 marks. And it was 3 marks that it has because of the church's divine origin. So we're going to actually get to those 3 in a bit. But so I didn't take any or much off for that one. Actually, I should probably go back through and give everybody also an extra point. Yeah, I'll probably do that. Okay. So second short answer question, you have to know 3 of the 6 different groups or divisions, I guess, of rites in the church. So this is on page 164. So there's a table here at the bottom. And so by groups, I mean like one is Roman, the other is Alexandrian, then Antiochian, Armenian, Byzantine, and Chaldean. You don't have to know like the ones in the white, even though some of them actually are the same. But just FYI, you got to know the different groups, or at least 3 of them. Okay, next, you got to know the meanings of sola scriptura and sola gratia. So it's sola scriptura. Scriptura is faith alone, or not faith, scripture alone. And sola gratia is grace alone, or I would accept faith alone as well. Next short answer question, you got to know what apostolic succession means. And you have to be specific. So you can find that on pages 165 and 166. Okay, so like the more technical definition is the church continues being taught, sanctified, and directed by the apostles in the persons of their successors in the pastoral ministry, which is the College of Bishops, and that's presided over by the Pope. But it also refers to the way that the bishops have received their mission and their powers in an uninterrupted chain of lawful succession all the way back to the apostles. So each bishop is kind of in a way descended from, like if you look at like descendants. So our current bishop, Bishop Bishop Brennan. His predecessor would be Bishop Campbell. Before that, Bishop Griffin. And so you can go like all the way back to the days of the apostles. Now, obviously, there wasn't a Columbus, Ohio, the days of the apostles. But every bishop has received they were ordained by a previous bishop. And so all those bishops end up funneling all the way back to the apostles. So you're going to have to describe that. That's probably going to be more of a paragraph answer. The next short answer question is, You got to know why sola scriptura is an unbiblical position to take. And that is in, I think well, let me check. It's in I think one of the first lectures that I posted for you, like during this time. Oh, here it is. Jeez. See, it's in the one titled Arianism and Other Heresies. So that was posted 2 weeks ago. And the last one it's like a one-word answer. So it says, Jesus never promised us a Bible. What did he promise us? And that is also in that lecture. Okay, now we're going to go through some of the topics of the true-false questions. Okay, so first, well, actually, let's just go through the ones for the matching that I think are you might need a little bit of help in distinguishing between the two, or between two or three of them. So first, definitely don't mix up apostle and apostasy. Yes, they had the same first 5 letters, but they have completely different meanings. Apostle means one who is sent forth, refers to the 12 that Jesus appointed. Apostasy is a complete rejection of, or a total repudiation of the Christian faith. Okay, so you got to definitely know that. So what would be the difference between ecumenical and ecumenism? Well, I mean, ecumenism is like a movement. So something that describes kind of more something general. So it's like the efforts to reunite all Christians on earth, and also to cooperate in achieving common goals. So that would be ecumenism. Ecumenical, though, that definition it's gonna include the Greek word oikumene. I have no idea if I pronounced that right. That means like the whole inhabited world. So, but one easy way to tell the difference is between the two with the questions on the test is that one of them or ecumenical can be used to refer to the 21 councils of the world's bishops that have been held since the 4th century. So we say that there's been 21 ecumenical councils. The first one, Council of Nicaea. The last one was the Second Vatican Council. Okay. Also, the difference between schism, heresy, and apostasy. Okay, so apostasy, we already saw, was the total rejection of the Christian faith. Okay, heresy is the denial by a baptized person of some truth that must be believed by faith. Okay, so heresy isn't rejection of the entire faith, like apostasy is. It's like you could, like, in reference to the heretics that we've covered, you could say that Arius, who started the Arian heresy, he was not, well, that was a pretty central one, but technically he wasn't. I don't think he could be considered guilty of apostasy, because what he was denying was Christ's divinity. But that is pretty essential to Christianity. So I don't know. Just the heresy is focusing on like one issue, typically. Okay, apostasy is the rejection of everything, and schism, that refers to a group. So it's a breach in the visible unity of the church, or the unity of the visible church. But it's also considered more of a group kind of thing, or community kind of thing. Okay, let's see. Protestantism and Reformation. Okay, so Reformation by itself, this refers to a series of schisms from the Catholic Church that took place from like the 1500s, early 1500s to the mid 1600s. But Protestantism, that refers to, it's a general name given to Christian denominations. So really I don't think that's too difficult to, to remember, but Protestant Reformation, like those two words usually go together, or commonly go together. So I could see some confusion there. Also, then immutable and indefectible. Let's see. I mean, immutable, you just got to know it just means without change. You can think of mutation. So that would be some kind of a change going on. So to be immutable would be to not change. Okay, so think of it like that. Also perennial should probably be included in there. So first, indefectible. That should be pretty easy to get because it's going to mean without defect. But perennial, like if any of your parents garden, or if you happen to garden, some flowers are called perennial because they come back every year. So that's going to mean that the church will last until the end of time. And I just remembered that separated brethren, let's see, where is it? Well, that should be pretty easy to distinguish from Protestants or Reformation, because this is talking about people, like individual people, and not so much of a group. So it's people who are born into communities that have schismed away from the faith or from the church. So those who are separated from the church. Okay, then the rest, those should not be difficult to distinguish. Yeah. All right. Let's go through the true-false questions. Okay. Now, even though one second. Even though for the matching you need to know basically the difference between apostasy, heresy, and schism. you also need to know, it's a true-false question, which is the worst and why. So that would be a schism because it's because that's involving an entire group of people, not just one person. Next, you got to know who the Neoplatonists are, what their basic beliefs were. What page was that found on? Right, I'm pretty sure that Neoplatonism, Neoplatonism is brought up the bottom of 152 and onto the top of 153. Okay, so study that part, and take note of the significance of logos for them. Next, you gotta know what Gnosticism is, and the main beliefs of Gnostics. And I know that Gnosticism, I said this in class, I know that Gnosticism can cover like a really broad spectrum of different groups composed of, or that hold different beliefs, but there are certain common denominators. So that is on page 153. So, like Gnostics, they believe that typically they believe that like physical creation is evil or impedes progress. They also think that they're saved through some secret knowledge. Okay, so those are a couple of the main beliefs. Yeah, so that's going to be 2 questions are about that. Next, you got to know which councils combated Arianism, which ecumenical councils combated Arianism. So I don't remember if this is actually brought up in the book, but I know I brought it up in class. Yeah, I don't think... I don't think that, other than Nicaea... Ow, son of a batch of cookies! I was trying to flick an ant, and I hit something hard that hurt. Okay, so you got to know that's the Council of Nicaea and the Council of Constantinople, because that's not in the book. At least upon a glance, it's not in the book. Also note what the church's response to Arianism was. So like what fundamental doctrine did the church say or declare in response to Arianism? Went over that in class, so that should be in your notes. Next, you gotta know Apollinaris. So he was a huge defender of the church's position against Arians, but you gotta know how he went too far. So in what way did he go too far and end up promoting a heresy. In other words, what was the heresy that he promoted? And that's also page 155. Then Nestorius. It's also page 155, or Nestorianism. So he was similar to Apollinaris. He wanted to emphasize not only the full divinity of Christ, but the full humanity. But how did he go too far? So that would be one. Oh, that'll be another true/false question. Next, monophysitism. You got to know what heresy that stands for, but that should be easy to remember because think of physics or phys ed. It's talking about something physical, in other words, nature. And mono means one or alone. So, one nature. That's what they taught, that Jesus only had one nature. Next, you got to know a little bit about Zwingli, Luther, Calvin, and King Hank the Eighth, or Henry the Eighth. So, you got to know that Luther posted the 95 Theses, and what city he did that in, which I actually don't remember if that's brought up. Like, I feel like it's common knowledge, but okay, that's not in the book. So Luther posted the 95 Theses on the door of his church in Wittenberg, and that kind of, in a way, you could say that marked the beginning of the Protestant Reformation, though not technically, because he was still Catholic at the time. You got to know what Zwingli and Luther were upset about, like what corrupt practice was going on by some members of the church. Let's see. Also know that you got to know this about Zwingli and Luther, that they, at least I think it seems reasonable to say that they probably started out with good intentions, but ended up not only attacking the authority of the church, but also the church's teaching, the church's worship, and the structure of the church as well. So know that that is in reference to Luther and Zwingli. Next, I don't think this is brought up actually in the book either. I hope I mentioned it in class. If not, I'll say it now. So, King Henry VIII is the one who started the Church of England. By the way, a lot of you were mistaken in lumping Calvin in with that, but I don't blame you so much for that because it's not really worded that clearly in the book. So know that Henry VIII, he started the Church of England because the Pope would not grant him an annulment. I'm pretty sure his wife was barren, so she was unable to have kids. So he wanted to divorce her and remarry so that he could have an heir, but the Pope would not grant him an annulment on account of that. So it's like, screw it, I'm leaving, and then started the Church of England. Calvin, on the other hand, actually, I don't bring up what he started or his one of the beliefs of his that that really separated him from the church. So don't worry about that. Next true or false question. You got to know which comes first, the church or the Bible. And that's also going to be in that lecture that I referred to earlier. Okay, next. Know how and why the church is considered holy. Like, is it because of us, or is it because of Christ? Okay. Next, I believe. Well, I don't remember where it is. Well, it's definitely on page 159 or 160, I think. Or 161. So it's in those 3 pages. But the book gives 3 ways that the church has been, 3 means or ways, however you want to say it, the church has been given to bring all of us into communion with God. So those 3 ways are, I think, the teachings of Jesus, the sacraments, and what else? I can't remember what else. Oh, the life of prayer that's cultivated by the Holy Spirit. Okay, so those are the 3. You only need to know 2 of them. But you just don't know which 2 are brought up. And I could be tricking you with it. So be on guard for that. And be on guard for that with every question, really. Next. You got to be able to answer the question of whether or not the church loses holiness because of the sins of her members. So that's also going to be in those 3 pages. Next, you got to know the most important Christian belief. It's the resurrection, which we are getting ready to celebrate this Sunday, even though our celebration is going to be a lot different. It's going to be really weird. I'm not a fan of watching on TV. And I want to receive the Eucharist and go to confession, but I can't do that either, so. But desperate times, desperate measures. The last true-false question has to do with the different rites within the Catholic Church and what they reflect. Okay, so that is brought up. That's brought up on the bottom of page 163. So those 2 bottom paragraphs, one is a quote from the Catechism. So if you read those, you should be good for that. Yeah, that covers it. So hopefully this was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. And once again, make sure to write down the words that I said in the beginning. I can post those words on Google Classroom tomorrow. But please only write down those words and not the definitions, to have that in front of you while taking the test. Thank you, and have a lovely night.